It's not in our book, but one of the first stories when we were dealing with this is I had to go to a manufacturing plant in the Midwest that was going to be shut down. And so supposedly the good news is the people at the plant were going to have a conversation of how to shut the plant down over 3 years so that it didn't impact immediately the lives of the 400 people in the plant, the Midwest town it was in, that it would be a successful closure. So I remember driving up on a Sunday night, and the meeting started on a Monday morning, and I kept thinking about what I had to do and what the positive opposite was. Close the plant, let's keep it open. So when I entered the conversation, they were not happy to see me because I was the facilitator that would be helping them facilitate, as Sherry just said, how are we going to shut this plan down? And I threw out a frame and I said to the group, I said, well, what if we came up with a revitalization plan? And they all pretty much had their arms folded and looked at me and they're like, we're on the shutdown list. This conglomerate has plants that are open, plants that are shut down. And I said, what if we designed a revitalization list? And that if in 1 year, 12 months from today, you guys can't revitalize this plan, you just shut down in 2 years. Why do we need 3 years to shut down? And we asked the holding company to give the people who are the closest to what's in this plant an attempt to revitalize it. And it took 4 hours to kind of get them to see and shift their mindsets. And then they spent a day and a half, as Sherry just explained, going through the D's here of discovering the strengths of the plant, their dream to keep it open, revitalize it, designing about a dozen initiatives and how they would deploy it. And the plant manager went to the holding company, and the plant has never shut down.
Wow.
But they had a plan to shut down in 2 years instead of 3 years, but they asked for a second genuine chance. And now there was a category called a revitalization opportunity. And that's framing.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that bonus content that didn't make it into your book. That is a great story. And, the public speaking setting, what you're reminding me of is we had a guest on the podcast a while back named Faith Kern. She wrote a book called Getting to the Heart of Science Communications. And she was talking about, even in a large group, that sometimes you can help people get their feelings out. And by just having turn to the person next to you and just have a brief conversation with them. And what I'm thinking about now is, I wonder if in that moment you instead use it as a chance to ask a generative question. If in many ways you are able to maybe bring a group of people that's sitting in front of you that's below the line and bring them above the line just by asking the right question and giving them space to answer it.
Yeah. And I would say this story happened in 2007. But I'll never forget the story, the plant stuff. But Sherry and I have worked together, which is great, is we found this language that people really like. Well, these people were all below the line when I walked into the room. And sometimes and we got above the line, but it took a good 4 hours to move 140 people above the line to get them into that mindset, that body mindset that they could say, well, there is something good and this is a possibility. And so we had the 5D cycle facilitated the conversation, which it was planned. How do we have a conversation with 140 people? And as Sherry mentioned, they had one-on-ones, then they had teams, and then they reported out. And by the end of a day and a half, they had the strengths identified, they had the initiatives, the vision, and they also had a promise to shut the plant down in 2 years if it did not revitalize. And that they worked on outside the meeting, but they just had a totally different mindset. And corporate was okay. The conglomerate was fine because all they kept saying, well, 3 years, you got to shut down or stay open. And they stayed open.
Amazing. And also 4 hours to move 140 people above the line actually doesn't sound like that much time. I mean, I would imagine these people who know that their livelihood is coming to an end, at least that chapter of it, there's some trauma involved in that and some real fear. And so the fact that you were able to do that in 4 hours, I think is miraculous. It
felt like eternity at the moment, but yeah, it wasn't that long.
Yes, I've led some of those sessions. I know exactly what you're talking about. Thanks for watching this video clip of the Speak Good podcast. If you'd like to hear the complete episode, please check out your favorite podcast directory and subscribe now. Thanks for watching.